Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video takes us straight into one of the most shocking developments in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, a moment many analysts believed was impossible just a year ago. Ukraine has launched a devastating strike that has once again destroyed the Crimea Bridge, also known as the Kerch Bridge, and the consequences inside Russia have spiraled into total chaos. What we're seeing right now is a mixture of military panic, political confusion, and a collapse of the narrative Moscow has been trying to maintain since the start of the invasion. The destruction of the bridge is not just a symbolic victory for Ukraine. It is a strategic earthquake that is shaking the entire Russian system from the battlefield to the Kremlin. In this video, we are breaking down everything that happened, how Ukraine pulled this off, how Russia is reacting, and why experts believe this could be a turning point in the war. The Crimea Bridge has always been one of Russia's most important and sensitive assets. For Moscow, it is not just a transportation line, but a symbol of Vladimir Putin's claim over Crimea. It connects mainland Russia to the peninsula and serves as a critical supply route for fuel, ammunition, equipment, and troop rotations. Since the beginning of the war, Ukraine has repeatedly targeted it, but this latest attack appears to have caused the most extensive damage so far. Images quickly surfaced showing collapsed sections, burning debris, and long stretches of roadway completely severed. The railway line, which is essential for heavy logistics, has also reportedly been damaged to the point where trains are halted indefinitely. Russian officials rushed to control the narrative, claiming everything was under control, but satellite images and local reports told a completely different story. Inside Russia, the shock was immediate. The Kremlin had assured the public for months that the bridge was fully protected by layered air defenses, patrol boats, smoke camouflage systems, and constant monitoring. The fact that Ukraine managed to bypass or overwhelm all of these defenses has created a wave of anger and embarrassment among Russian military bloggers, nationalist commentators, and even loyal Kremlin supporters. Many of them asked how such a strike could happen when billions of rubles were supposedly spent on securing the bridge. Some went as far as accusing Russian commanders of incompetence or even sabotage. This level of public criticism inside Russia is rare and signals how serious the situation has become. Ukraine has not officially confirmed the details of the operation, but credible sources suggest that the attack combined long-range missiles with maritime drones. These sea drones have become one of Ukraine's most effective weapons, capable of traveling long distances, carrying heavy explosives, and avoiding detection by Russian radar. Over the last year, Ukraine has repeatedly upgraded these drones with faster speeds, stealthier designs, and GPS-guided navigation. Many experts believe the strike was timed perfectly, using both aerial and naval attacks to overwhelm Russian defenses. The operation appears to have been coordinated with precision, hitting structurally critical points of the bridge that caused maximum disruption. The impact on Russia's military logistics has been enormous. Without the bridge functioning, Russian forces in southern Ukraine face serious supply shortages. Fuel transports have been delayed, ammunition deliveries slowed, and troop movements rerouted through much longer paths in occupied territories. This not only increases the strain on Russia's military, but also exposes their convoys to further Ukrainian strikes. Analysts are calling this a logistical nightmare for Moscow, especially because winter is approaching and battlefield conditions are becoming even more difficult. Meanwhile, inside Moscow, reports suggest that the Kremlin has gone into crisis mode. Emergency meetings were held throughout the night, and Russian state media was ordered to downplay the damage to avoid panic. But hiding the truth has become impossible. Videos from local residents, satellite images, and even Russian bloggers have forced the government to acknowledge the severity of the situation. In some regions, fuel shortages have already begun, and long lines formed at gas stations as people feared further disruptions. Railway delays spread across southern Russia, causing widespread frustration among civilians. The political fallout is also growing. Hardline nationalist groups, many of whom have supported Russia's invasion from the start, are furious. They believe that Russia's military leadership has been too slow, too passive, and too disorganized to handle Ukraine's increasingly sophisticated attacks. Some are demanding resignations at the highest levels of the defense ministry. Their anger is directed not only at the generals, but indirectly at Vladimir Putin himself. While they don't criticize him openly, they imply that he has failed to take decisive action. This is extremely dangerous for the Kremlin because these voices come from within Russia's own pro-war community, not from opposition groups. Internationally, Ukraine's strike has been seen as a demonstration of its growing military capability. Western partners have praised the attack as a major strategic achievement, while intelligence agencies are now assessing how Ukraine has been able to consistently hit Russian assets that were once considered secure. There is a growing belief among analysts that Ukraine has managed to build an independent strike program that does not rely entirely on foreign weapons. This makes it far harder for Russia to predict or counter future attacks. On the battlefield, Ukrainian morale has skyrocketed. Soldiers on the front lines have shared videos celebrating the destruction of the bridge, calling it a turning point in the war. Many Ukrainian commanders say that disrupting Russia's supply lines is the key to weakening their frontline positions. If Russia cannot supply its troops effectively, Ukraine could gain the upper hand in several critical regions. Already, Ukrainian forces in the south have reported increased success in targeting Russian supply depots, command centers, and airfields. Russia, on the other hand, is struggling to respond. With the bridge damaged, the Kremlin has turned to ferries to move supplies across the water. But ferries are slow, vulnerable, and cannot carry the same volume of cargo as the bridge. Ukrainian military drones continue to strike at these temporary supply routes, making it nearly impossible for Russia to stabilize the situation. Some Russian officials have suggested building additional bridges, but engineers say this could take years and billions of dollars, money that Russia cannot easily afford while waging a costly war. As chaos spreads, Russian civilians in Crimea are becoming increasingly anxious. Many are attempting to leave the peninsula, fearing that Ukraine will continue targeting key infrastructure. Traffic jams stretching kilometers have formed near exit routes. Hotels and rental apartments in nearby regions have been overwhelmed as people try to evacuate. Local stores have also reported shortages of essential goods due to disrupted supply chains. Ukraine has publicly stated that Crimea is part of its sovereign territory and that Russian occupation will not last forever. The latest strike serves as a reminder that the peninsula is becoming an increasingly dangerous place for Russia and its civilians. One of the most important aspects of this event is the psychological impact. For months, Russia has relied on propaganda to convince its population that it is winning the war. The destruction of the bridge destroys this illusion. It sends a message to Russians that their government cannot protect them or the territories it claims to control. At the same time, it sends a message to Ukrainians that their resistance is working and that victory is possible. This psychological blow could have lasting effects on Russian morale and political stability. The Kremlin is now trying to frame the attack as an act of terrorism, hoping to rally public support and justify further escalation. However, many Russians see through this narrative. They know that the bridge is a legitimate military target because it has been used for troop and equipment transport. In addition, pro-war bloggers are no longer blindly supporting the government's messaging. They are pointing out the failures of Russian air defenses and the lack of a coordinated response. Their criticism is shaping public opinion in ways that the Kremlin cannot fully control. With Russia in a state of confusion, Ukraine is pushing the advantage. Military analysts believe that Kyiv may now target additional infrastructure in Crimea, including airbases, ammunition depots, and radar stations. These facilities are essential for Russia's operations in the south, and losing them would weaken their ability to defend occupied territories. There is also speculation that Ukraine is preparing for a larger offensive, aimed at retaking key areas near the peninsula. While this remains unconfirmed, the timing of the bridge strike suggests that Ukraine is trying to disrupt Russian logistics ahead of future operations. As the chaos spreads deeper into Russia, we are beginning to see signs of internal fractures. Some regional governors have complained about the lack of federal support. Others have privately expressed concern about the direction of the war. Reports from Moscow indicate that several power groups within the Kremlin are blaming each other for the failures. These factions have always competed behind the scenes, but the current crisis is intensifying their rivalries. Political analysts warn that the pressure on Putin is growing, and while he remains in control, the cracks in the system are becoming harder to ignore. International reactions continue to develop, with NATO leaders stating that Ukraine has every right to target military infrastructure used by Russia to invade its territory. Meanwhile, Russia has threatened retaliation, but has limited options due to its stretched resources and weakened positions on the battlefield. Some experts believe the Kremlin may turn to long-range missile strikes on Ukrainian cities, but these attacks are becoming less effective as Ukraine improves its air defenses. The balance of power is shifting, and Russia is increasingly on the defensive. The destruction of the Crimea Bridge has also affected the global economy. Energy prices briefly spiked as investors reacted to instability in the region. Shipping routes in the Black Sea have been disrupted, causing delays in grain exports and raising concerns about global food supplies. Countries in Europe and Asia are monitoring the situation closely, worried that further escalation could impact trade and security. Despite the chaos, Ukraine has maintained a measured response. Ukrainian officials have emphasized that their goal is to restore their territorial integrity, not to destabilize Russia. They continue to call for international support, highlighting the importance of sustained aid. The success of the bridge strike has strengthened their case, showing that military assistance produces real results on the battlefield. Back in Russia, ordinary citizens are increasingly worried. Many people are frustrated with the government's handling of the war and fear that further Ukrainian strikes could hit targets inside Russia. Social media has been flooded with videos of explosions, fires, and emergency responses. A sense of insecurity is spreading across the country. Parents are worried about their children's safety, businesses are facing supply disruptions, and soldiers at the front are expressing exhaustion and fear. As we look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that the destruction of the Crimea Bridge is not just a single event. It is a turning point that exposes deep weaknesses in Russia's military strategy, infrastructure, and political leadership. It undermines the Kremlin's narrative and fuels internal dissatisfaction. It strengthens Ukraine's position both militarily and diplomatically. and it signals to the world that this war is far from over and may be entering a new and unpredictable phase. In the coming days, we can expect more reactions, more analysis, and potentially more escalation. Russia will likely attempt to rebuild the bridge, but experts say this could take months or even years. During that time, Ukraine will continue targeting critical infrastructure and disrupting supply lines. The longer Russia stays on the defensive, the more difficult it becomes for them to maintain control over occupied territories. The question many people are now asking is, what comes next? Will Russia intensify its attacks, or will internal pressure force the Kremlin to reconsider its strategy? Will Ukraine push deeper into occupied territories, or will it focus on further weakening Russian infrastructure? Will international support increase or remain steady? These questions will shape the future of the conflict. In conclusion, Ukraine's destruction of the Crimea Bridge has plunged Russia into total chaos, both militarily and politically. The strike has exposed vulnerabilities, disrupted logistics, shaken public confidence, and triggered a wave of criticism within Russia itself. As events continue to unfold, one thing is certain. This moment will be remembered as a major milestone in the war, a moment when the balance of power shifted and new possibilities emerged. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more updates, and make sure to subscribe for future analysis on this rapidly changing situation.